Gina. Initial attitudes. Influencing non-player character attitudes, disable device, actions, try-ends, other ways to defeat a trap. Range attack traps, melee attack traps, pits, magic traps. And I think that's about it. Dispel magic helps. Yeah. Someone who succeeds by casting level check against the level of the trap's creator suppresses the trap for 1d4 rounds. This works only with a targeted dispel magic, not the area version. See the description. You attempt to leave behind no trace of your tampering, add 5 DC. Disguise. Charisma check. Your disguise check result determines how good the disguise is. And is opposed by others' spot check. If you don't draw any attention to yourself, others do not get to make spot checks. If you come to the attention of people who are suspicious, such as a guard, Russian bombers walking through a city gate, it can be assumed that such observers are taking 10 on their spot checks. You get only 1 disguise check per use of the skill, even if several people are making spot checks against it. The disguise check is made secretly, so that you cannot be sure how good the result is. The effectiveness of your disguise depends in part on how much you're attempting to change your appearance. If you are impersonating a particular individual, those who know that person, who know what that person looks like, get a bonus on their spot checks according to the table below. Furthermore, they are automatically considered to be suspicious of you, so opposed checks are always called for. Familiarity and reviewer's spot check bonus. So recognize it on sight +4, friends or associates +6, close friends +8, intimate +10. Usually, an individual makes a spot check to see through your disguise immediately upon meeting you and each hour thereafter. If you casually meet many different creatures, each for a short each for a short time, check once per day or hour. Casually meet many creatures, each for a short time, check once per day or hour, using an average spot modifier for the group. Action. Creating a disguise requires 1 D3 plus times 10 minutes of work. Creating a disguise requires 1 D3 times 10 minutes of work. Try again. Yes, you may try to redo a failed disguise, but once others know that a disguise was attempted, they'll be more suspicious. Special magic that alters your form, such as alter self, disguise self, polymorph, or shape change. Grants you a +10 bonus on disguise checks. See the individual spell descriptions. You must succeed on a disguise check with a +10 bonus to duplicate the appearance of a specific individual using the Veil spell, a divination magic that allows people to see through illusions such as true seeing. Does not penetrate a mundane disguise, but it can negate the magical component of a magically enhanced one. You must make a disguise check when you cast a simulacrum spell to determine how good the likeness is. If you have the deceptive feat, you get a +2 bonus on disguise checks. Disguise minor details only. Disguise check modifier +5. Disguise as different gender, -2. Disguise as different race, -2. Disguise as different age category, -2. And then these modifiers are cumulative, usually that apply. First step of difference between your actual age category and your disguised age category. The steps are young, younger than adulthood, middle age, old, and venerable. Synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in bluff, you get a +2 bonus on disguise checks when you know that you're being observed and you try to act in character. 5 or more ranks in bluff. That's 2 bonus on disguise checks. Restrained. Okay, that's for something else. Alright, so that's disguise. That's all to do with disguise. Now, in the Earth, Wind, and Shire Bard thing, Bard Tale campaign, they had one of the bards disguise himself as a different person after performing a concert as himself. So that was all kinds of fun. He did a concert as himself and then posed as a halfling Donald Trump with a brewery to sell. Got a brewery in the Shire to sell. And the dwarf in the party has a brewer's kit and a tinker's kit, and he keeps trying to use them for other things. It's good stuff. Real fun. Right. Escape artist. Escape artist dexterity armor check penalty. Check. The table below gives the DCs to escape various forms of restraints. Ropes. Your escape artist check is opposed by the binder's use rope check, since it's easier to tie someone up than to escape from being tied up. The binder gets a +10 bonus on his or her check. Manacles and masterwork manacles. The DC for manacles is set by their construction. Tight space. The DC noted on the table is for getting through a space where your head fits but your shoulders don't. If the space is long, you may need to make multiple checks. You cannot get through a space but your head does not fit through. Grappler. You can make an escape artist check opposed by your enemy's grapple check to get out of a grapple or out of a pinned condition that you're only grappling. Action. Making an escape artist check to escape from rope bindings, manacles, or other restraints except a grappler requires 1 minute of work. Escaping from a net or an animate rope, command plants, control plants, or entangle spell is a full round action. Control plants, command plants, entangle. Druid spells. Escaping from a grapple or pin is a standard action. Squeezing through a tight space takes at least 1 minute, maybe longer, depending on how long the space is. Try again, varies. You can make another check after a failed check if you're squeezing your way through a tight space, making multiple checks. If the situation permits, you can make additional checks or even take 20, as long as you're not being actively opposed. Special. If you have the agile feat, you get a +2 bonus on escape artist checks. And synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in escape artist, you get a +2 bonus on use rope checks to bind someone. If you have 5 or more ranks in use rope, you get a +2 bonus on escape artist checks when escaping from rope bonds. Forgery. Intelligence check. Forgery requires writing materials appropriate to the document being forged, enough light or sufficient visual acuity to see the details of what you're writing, wax for seals if appropriate, and some time. To forge a document on which the handwriting is not specific to a person, military orders, a government decree, a business ledger, or the like, you need only to have seen a similar document before, and you gain a +8 bonus on your check. To forge a signature, you need an autograph of that person to copy, and you gain a +4 bonus on the check. To forge a longer document written in the hand of some particular person, a large sample of that person's handwriting is needed. In Earthwind and Shire, they have psychic paper. Bobby has this little stack of psychic paper that if he sees anything, if he sees mural or a check or money order or anything, he can psychically print that on a piece of magic psychic paper. But he only has a handful of those papers. Very interesting stuff. And he used it to copy a bank statement and an ancient mural and a few other things. The forgery check is made secretly so that you're not sure how good your forgery is. As with disguise, you don't even need to make a check until someone examines the work. Your forgery check is opposed by the forgery check of the person who examines the document to check its authenticity. The examiner gains modifiers on his or her check if any of the conditions on the table on page 96 exist. This is 93. 96. The table about healing. So that's a typo. Examiner gains modifiers or check any of the conditions on it's probably page 93 because the table's up here on page 93. It says 6 down here. A document that contradicts procedure, orders, or previous knowledge, or one that requires sacrifice on the part of the person checking the document, can increase that character's suspicion and thus create favorable circumstances for the checker's opposing forgery check. The table here. Type of document unknown to reader. Reader's forgery check modifier -2. Type of document somewhat known to reader +0. Type of document well known to reader +2. Handwriting not known to reader -2. Handwriting somewhat +0. Handwriting intimately known to reader +2. Reader only casually reviews the document -2. Action. Forging a very short and simple document takes about 1 minute. A longer or more complex document takes 1d4 minutes per page. Try again. Usually no. A retry is never possible after a particular reader detects a particular forgery. But the document created by the forger might still fool someone else. The result of a forgery check for a particular document must be used for every instance of a different reader examining the document. No reader can attempt to detect a particular forgery more than once. If that one opposed check goes in favor of the forger, then the reader cannot try using his own skill again. Even if he's suspicious about the document. I don't know, if he becomes suspicious, he can probably check again. Special. If you have the deceitful feat, you gain a +2 bonus on forgery checks. Restriction. Forgery is a language dependent. Thus, to forge documents and detect forgeries, you must be able to read and write the language in question. A barbarian cannot learn the forgery skill unless he has learned to read and write. It shouldn't be like that. They gave Conan reading and writing materials. It's druids that don't believe in letters. It was. It was Ogham. I like Ogham. Gather information. Charisma check. An evening's time, a few gold pieces for buying drinks and making friends, and a DC 10 gather information check get you a general idea of a city's major news items. Assuming there are no obvious reasons why the information would be withheld, the higher your check result, the better the information. If you want to find out about a specific rumor or a specific item, or obtain a map, or do something else along those lines, The DC for the check is 15 to 25, or even higher. Action: a typical gather information check takes a 1d4 plus 1 hours. I'd love to see a scenario about that. You come into the tavern and you do a gather information check and you listen as all of the other people just tell stories. Tell about the world, tell about rumors and gossip, and legends and tales, and all kind of fun stuff. Especially the bards start telling stories of the ancient gods. It'd be great. It'd be great to have that like role played and like animated. I keep wanting to draw cartoons. All right, try again. Yes, but it takes time for each check. Furthermore, you may draw attention to yourself if you repeatedly pursue a certain type of information. Special. A half-elf has a +2 racial bonus on gather information checks. Really, a half-elf? If you have the investigator feat, you get a +2 bonus on gather information checks. Half-elf investigator, okay. Character ideas. Synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge local, you get a +2 bonus on gather information checks. Yeah. And that's the end of that about gather information order stuff. Next is handle animal. Charisma, trained only. Check. The DC depends on what you are trying to do. Handle an animal. This task involves commanding an animal to perform a task or trick that it knows. If the animal is wounded or has taken any non-lethal damage or abilities score damage, the DC increases by 2. If your check succeeds, the animal performs the task or trick on its next action. Push an animal. To push an animal means to get it to perform a task or trick that it doesn't know but is physically capable of performing. This category also covers making an animal perform a forced march or forcing it to hustle for more than 1 hour between sleep cycles. If the animal is wounded or has taken any non-lethal damage or ability score damage, the DC increases. If your check succeeds, the animal performs the task or trick on its next action. Teach an animal a trick. You can teach an animal a specific trick with 1 week of work and a successful handle animal check against the indicated DC. An animal with an intelligence score of 1 can learn a maximum of 3 tricks. An animal with an intelligence score of 2 can learn a maximum of 6 tricks. Possible tricks and their associated DCs include, but are not necessarily limited to, the following. Attack, DC 20. The animal attacks apparent enemies. You may point to a particular creature that you wish the animal to attack, and it will comply if able. Normally, an animal will attack only humanoids, monstrous humanoids, giants, or other animals. Teaching an animal to attack all creatures, including such unnatural creatures as undead and aberrations, count as 2 tricks. Undead. Huh. aberrations. Come. DC 15. The animal comes to you even if it normally would not do so. Defend. DC 20. The animal defends you or is ready to defend you if no threat is present, even without any command being given. Alternatively, you can command the animal to defend a specific other character. Down. DC 15. The animal breaks off from combat or otherwise backs down. An animal that doesn't know this trick continues to fight until it must flee due to injury, a fear effect, or the like, or his opponent is defeated. Fetched. DC 15. The animal goes and gets something. If you do not point out a specific item, the animal fetches some random object. Guard. DC 20. The animal stays in place and prevents others from approaching. Heal. DC 15. The animal guard is DC 20. Heal. Guard. Guard is DC 20. Heal is 15. The animal follows you closely, even to places where it normally wouldn't go. Perform. DC 15. The animal performs a variety of simple tricks, such as sitting up, rolling over, roaring, or barking, and so on. Seek. DC 15. The animal moves into an area and looks around for anything that is obviously alive or animate. Stay. DC 15. The animal stays in place, waiting for you to return. It does not challenge other creatures that come by, though it still defends itself if it needs to. Pet alligator. Having a pet alligator, it would be funny. Like Pinkie Pie has. Pet baby gator. Handle an animal. Handle animal DC 10. Push an animal 25. Teach an animal a trick 15 or 20. Train an animal for general purpose 15 or 20. Rear a wild animal 15 plus HD of animal. See the specific trick or purpose below. And the bar, the two halflings each have great big mastiffs to ride. The elf has a horse, and the dwarf has a bear. But the DM was like, "You come to this particular market, and the bear you're looking to buy was bred for food. It was made to be fattened up and then slaughtered. But you're buying it and training it to be a riding bear. Okay." But yeah, the mastiffs are war dogs. Now the bard halflings are training it to be cuddly. Cuddly puppies. But then they fought a wyvern, and the wyvern kind of toasted the dogs. We'll see how they deal with that later. It also toasted their half elf. They were able to save the half elf. So anyway, general purpose DCV. It's combat riding 20, fighting 20, guarding 20, heavy labor 15, hunting 20, performance 15, and riding 15. Combat riding. Track. You see 20. The animal tracks the scent presented to it. This requires the animal to have the scent ability. Work, DC 15. The animal pulls or pushes a medium or heavy load. Train an animal for a purpose. Rather than teaching an animal individual tricks, you can simply train it for a general purpose. Essentially, an animal's purpose represents a pre-selected set of known tricks that fit into a common scheme, such as guarding or heavy labor. An animal must meet all of the normal prerequisites for all tricks included in the training package. If the package includes more than 3 tricks, the animal must have an intelligence score of 2. An animal can be trained for only one general purpose, though if the creature is capable of learning an additional tricks. Above and beyond those included in its general purpose, it may do so. Training an animal for a purpose requires fewer checks than teaching individual tricks does, but no less time. Combat riding. DC 20. An animal trained to bear a rider into combat knows the tricks attack, come, defend, down, guard, and heal. Training an animal for combat riding takes 6 weeks. You may also upgrade an animal trained for riding to one trained for combat riding by spending 3 weeks and making a successful DC 20 handle animal check. The new general purpose and tricks completely replace the animal's previous purpose and any tricks it once knew. War horses and riding dogs are already trained to bear riders into combat, and they don't require any additional training for this purpose. So, yeah, the halflings, the dogs, already know combat riding. Fighting, DC 20. An animal trained to engage in combat knows the tricks attack, down, and stay. Training an animal for fighting takes 3 weeks. It knows the tricks attack, down, and stay. Guarding. DC 20. An animal trained to guard knows the tricks attack, defend, down, and guard. Training an animal for guarding takes 4 weeks. Heavy labor, DC 15. The guarding is 20. Fighting is also 20. And then heavy labor 15. An animal trained for heavy labor knows the tricks come and work. Training an animal for heavy labor takes 2 weeks. Hunting, DC 20. An animal trained for hunting knows the tricks attack, down, fetch, heal, seek, and track. Training an animal for hunting takes 6 weeks. Performance. DC 15. An animal trained for performance knows the tricks. Fetch, heal, perform, and stay. Training an animal for performance takes 5 weeks. Riding, DC 15. An animal trained to bear a rider knows the tricks come, heal, and stay. Training an animal for riding takes 3 weeks. Rear a wild animal. To rear an animal means to raise a wild creature from infancy so that it becomes domesticated. A handler can rear as many as 3 creatures of the same kind at once. A successfully domesticated animal can be taught tricks at the same time it's being raised, or it can be taught as a domesticated animal later. It's probably more effective to train it as a gun. Action varies. Handling an animal is a move action, while pushing an animal is a full round action. A druid or ranger can handle her animal companion as a free action or push it as a move action. For tasks with specific time frames noted above, you must spend half this time at the rate of 3 hours per day per animal being handled, working toward completion of the task, or you can attempt to handle animal check. If the check fails, your attempt to teach, your check fails, your attempt to teach, rear, or train the animal fails, and you need not complete the teaching, rearing, or training time. If the check succeeds, you must invest the remainder of the time to complete the teaching, rearing, or training. If the time is interrupted or the task is not followed through to completion, the attempt to teach, rear, or train the animal automatically fails. We'll do roleplay that. Kargar has to spend a lot of time training his bear. Try again. Yes, except for rearing an animal. Special. You can use this skill on a creature with an intelligence score of 1 or 2 that is not an animal, but the DC of any such check increases by 5. Such creatures have the same limit on tricks known that as animals do. A creature. Okay. A druid or ranger gains a +4 circumstance bonus on handle animal checks involving her animal companion. In addition, a druid or ranger's animal companion knows 1 or more bonus tricks which don't count against the normal limit on tricks known and don't require any training time or handle animal checks to teach. Next. This is skills. If you have the animal affinity feat, you get a +2 bonus on handle animal checks. Synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in handle animal, you get a +2 bonus on ride checks and wild empathy checks. Untrained. If you have no ranks in handle animal, you can use a charisma check to handle and push domestic animals, but you cannot teach, rear, or train animals. A druid or ranger with no ranks in handle animal can use a charisma check to handle and push her animal companion, cannot teach, rear, or train other non-domestic animals. Masters of the Wild. Heal. Wisdom check. The DC and effect depend on the task you attempt. Task heal. Task heal. DC. First aid 15. Long-term care 15. Treat wound from caltrop, spike growth, or spike stones 15. Treat poison. Poison save DC. Treat diseases save DC. First aid. You usually use first aid to save a dying character. If a character has negative hit points and is losing hit points at the rate of 1 per round, 1 per hour, 1 per day, you can make him or her stable. A stable character gains no hit points but stops losing them. Long-term care. Providing long-term care means treating a wounded person for a day or more. If your heal check is successful, the patient recovers hit points or ability score points. Loss to ability damage at twice the normal. 2 hit points per level for a full 8 hours of rest in a day, or 4 hit points per level for each full day of complete rest. 2 ability score points for a full 8 hours of rest in a day, or 4 ability score points for each full day of complete rest. And when the elf character got killed and resurrected, they had a big, beautiful dwarven nurse take care of him. Providing long-term care means treated a wounded person for a day or more. If your heal check is successful, the patient recovers hit points or ability score points lost to ability damage at twice the normal rate. 2 hit points per level for a full 8 hours of rest in a day, or 4 hit points per level for each full day of complete rest. 2 ability score points for a full 8 hours of rest in a day, or 4 ability score points for each full day of complete. You can tend as many as 6 patients at a time. You need a few items and supplies, bandages, salves, so on, that are easy to come by in settled lands. Giving long-term care counts as light activity for the healer. You cannot give long-term care to yourself. I mean, you kind of can. If you're a hermit, you have a whole stockpile of stuff. But treat the wound from control. But yeah, as far as this goes, you can't just do it to yourself. You have to sit around just being, sleepy. Treat wound from caltrop, spike growth, or spike stones. Creature wounded by stepping on a caltrop moves at 1/2 normal speed. A successful heal check removes this movement penalty. Do Legos count as caltrops? A creature wounded by a spike growth or spike stone spell must succeed on a reflex save or take injuries that reduce his speed by 1/3. Another character can remove this penalty by taking 10 minutes to dress the victim's injuries and succeeding on a heal check against the spell save DC. Treat poison. To treat poison means to tend a single character who has been poisoned and who is going to take more damage from the poison or suffer some other effect. Every time the poison character makes a saving throw against the poison, you make a heal check. The poison character uses your heal check result or his or her saving throw, whichever is higher. Treat disease. To treat a disease means to tend a single disease character. Every time he or she makes a saving throw against disease effects, you make a heal check. The diseased character uses your check result or his or her saving throw, whichever is higher. Action. Providing first aid, treating a wound, or treating poison is a standard action. Treating a disease or tending a creature wounded by a spike growth or spike stone spell takes 10 minutes of work. Providing long-term care requires 8 hours of light activity. Providing first aid, treating wound, or treating poison is a standard action. Treating the disease or tending a creature wounded by a spike growth or spike stone spell takes 10 minutes of work. Providing long-term care requires 8 hours of light activity. Try again. Varies. Generally speaking, you cannot try a heal check again without proof of the original check's failure. You can always retry a check to provide first aid, assuming the target of the previous attempt is still alive. Special. A character with the self-sufficient if you fail a first aid check, you might kill the person. I don't know. Character. A character with the self-sufficient feat gets a +2 bonus on heal checks. Self-sufficient feat. I'd like to hear about that. A healer's kit gives you a +2 circumstance bonus on heal checks. Right about that. I'm gonna put feats on cards and draw up a little card for the healer's kit. And more cards for spike graphic. Hide. Dexterity, armor check penalty. Check. Your hide check is opposed by the spot check of anyone who might see you. You can move up to 1/2 your normal speed and hide at no penalty. When moving at a speed greater than 1/2 but less than your normal speed, you take a -5 penalty. It's practically impossible, -20 penalty, to hide while attacking, running, or charging. They had this scenario where a little dwarf attacked the elf and he ran off down an alley and jumped in a barrel and did an illusion to make it look like he was jumping over the wall while he was hiding in the barrel. So that was a pretty clever way to get around. Anyway, the dwarf was then found and shaved. It was gruesome. A creature larger or smaller than medium takes a size bonus or penalty on hide checks depending on its size category. Fine +16, diminutive +12, tiny +8, small +4, large -4, huge -8, gargantuan -12, and colossal -16. You need cover or concealment in order to attempt a hide check. Total cover or total concealment, usually but not always, see special below, obviates the need for a hide check, since nothing can see you anyway. The dwarf jumped into a barrel that was found. I thought he went over the wall. And they were like, huh, let me get over that wall like that. Hey, there's a barrel there. I'm gonna look. If people are observing you, even casually, you cannot hide. You can run, but you can't hide. What even is that from? This is the old meme. You can run, but you can't hide. For total concealment, you would not always see for him. Evades need for a hide check, so they can see you anyway. If people are observing you, even casually, you cannot hide. You can run around a corner or behind a cover so that you're out of sight and then hide, like the dwarf. But the others then can know at least where you went. People are observing you, and casually, you cannot hide. You can run, but you can't hide. You can run around a corner or behind cover so that you're out of sight and then hide, but the others then can know at least where you went. If your observers are momentarily distracted, such as by a bluff check, though you can attempt to hide. While the others turn their attention from you, you can attempt a hide check if you can get to a hiding place of some kind. Turn their attention from you, you can attempt a hide check if you can get to a hiding place of some kind. As a general guideline, the hiding place has to be within 1 foot per rank you have in hide. The hiding place has to be 1 foot per range you have it hide. Okay, some interesting math. This check, however, is made at a -10 penalty because you have to move fast. That's very interesting math there. I'm gonna make some math cards. Sniping. If you've already successfully hidden at least 10 feet from your target, you can make one ranged attack, then immediately hide again. You take a -20 penalty on your hide checks to conceal yourself after the shot. Totally. Gloria. Creating a diversion to hide. You can use bluffs to help you hide. A successful bluff check can give you the momentary diversion you need to attempt a hide check while people are aware of you. Action. Usually not. Normally, you make a hide check as part of movement, so it doesn't take a separate action. However, hiding immediately after a ranged attack, sniping buff, is a move action. Special if you are invisible, you gain a +40 bonus on hide checks. If you are immobile, or a +20 bonus on hide checks if you're moving. If you have the stealthy feat, you get a +2 bonus on hide checks. A 13th level ranger can attempt a hide check in any sort of natural terrain, even if it doesn't grant cover or concealment. A 17th level ranger can do this even while being observed. Aragorn can just disappear. Or the hobbits with their cloaks fell down the rocky slope in front of the black gates and then were able to disguise themselves as a rock. So that was pretty good. Frodo and Sam were gaining some ranger skills as they were traversing the wild. Frodo and Sam totally became Hobbit Rangers. Intimidate, charisma check. You can change another's behavior with a successful check. Your intimidate check is opposed by the target's modified level check, 1d20 plus character level, or hit dice plus target's wisdom bonus, if any, plus target's modifiers on saves against fear. That's some very interesting math. I'll go back through this and write down all the weird math equations. Okay. Intimidate check. You can change another's behavior with a successful check. Your intimidate check is opposed to the target's modified level check, 1d20 plus character level, or hit dice plus target's wisdom bonus of any plus target's modifiers on saves against fear. If you beat your target's check result, you may treat the target as friendly, but only for the purpose of actions taken while it remains intimidated. That is, the target retains its normal attitude, but will chat, advise, offer limited help, or advocate on your behalf while intimidated. See the diplomacy skill of the effect lasts as long as the target remains in your presence and for 1d6 times 10 minutes afterward. After this time, the target's default attitude toward you shifts to unfriendly, or if normally unfriendly, to hostile. The bards intimidated a little halfling sorcerer that came along into helping them fight the crab water elemental. He about ran away, but they magically made him stay. If you failed the check by 5 or more, the target provides you with incorrect or useless information, otherwise frustrates your efforts. He tried to run away. And they're like, nope. she used command on him, I think. So he did help to fight the crab, and then promptly ran away. The elf kept trying to cast shatter on him. Demoralize opponent. You can also use intimidate to weaken an opponent's resolve in combat. To do so, make an intimidate check opposed by the target's modified level check. See, if you win, the target becomes shaken for 1 round. A shaken character takes a -2 penalty on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. You can intimidate only an opponent that you threaten in melee combat and that can see you. So you can demoralize an opponent. You can intimidate it to weaken their resolve in combat. Intimidate opposed by the target's modified level check. This is some interesting math. If you win, the target becomes shaken, demoralized. And they don't even want to fight, because you look like you're too powerful. Action varies. Changing another's behavior requires 1 minute of interaction. Intimidating an opponent in combat is a standard action. Try again, optional but not recommended, because retries usually do not work. Even if the initial check succeeds, the other character can be intimidated only so far, and a retry doesn't help. If the initial check fails, the other character has probably become more firmly resolved to resist the intimidator, and a retry is futile. Although I can see where you might up the ante a bit and really intimidate them. You know, like pull out an axe if you weren't already really want it. Special, you gain a +4 bonus on your intimidate check for every size category that you are larger than your target. Conversely, you take a -4 penalty on your intimidate check for every size category that you are smaller than your target. A character immune to fear cannot be intimidated, nor can non-intelligent creatures. If you have the persuasive feat, you get a +2 bonus on intimidate checks. Synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in bluff, you get a +2 bonus on intimidate checks. And if you have the persuasive feat, you get a +2 bonus. And so persuasive and plus. Like this. Jump. Strength, armor check penalty. Check. The DC and the distance you can cover vary according to the type of jump you are attempting. Your jump check is modified by your speed. If your speed is 30 feet, then no modifier based on speed applies to the check. If your speed is less than 30 feet, you take a -6 penalty for every 10 feet of speed less than 30 feet. More interesting math. If your speed is less than 30 feet, take a -6 penalty for each 10 feet of speed less than 30. -6 penalty for 10 feet of speed less than 30 feet. If your speed is greater than 30 feet, you gain a +4 bonus for every 10 feet beyond 30 feet. All jump DCs given here assume that you get a running start, which requires that you move at least 20 feet in a straight line before attempting the jump. If you do not get a running start, the DC for the jump is doubled. Distance moved by jumping is counted against your normal maximum movement in a round. Jump DCs here. Start. You move 20 feet in a straight line and then jump. DC is doubled. Bounce up and down for a little bit. Distance moved by jumping is counted against the normal maximum movement in a round. If you have ranks in jump and you succeed on a jump check, you land on your feet. Appropriate. If you attempt the jump check untrained, you land prone unless you beat the DC by 5 or more. More interesting math. Long jump. A long jump is a horizontal jump made across a gap, like a chasm or stream. At the midpoint of the jump, you attain a vertical height equal to 1/4 of the horizontal distance. The DC for the jump is equal to the distance jumped in feet. Long jump, horizontal jump, made across a gap like a chasm or stream. At the midpoint, you can attain a vertical height equal to 1/4 of the original of the quarter of the horizontal distance. Height equal to 1/4 of the horizontal distance. The DC for the jump is equal to the distance jumped in feet. If your check succeeds, you land on your feet at the far end. If you fail the check by less than 5, you don't clear the distance, but you can make a DC 15 reflex to save to grab the far edge of the gap. In your movement, grasping the far edge. If that leaves you dangling over a chasm or gap, getting up requires a move action and a DC 15 climb check. But if it's just like a little stream, you'll just splash in the water and be fine. You end up in the mud. Yeah, they did that with the birds. They leapt from a boat onto the shore, and he landed in the mud. So they re-rolled all of it, and decided that he was going to use Featherfall and a bunch of unseen servants to get to the bank and then get back with the onions they were going to get. That was really fun. Then they fought a giant squid that they afterwards called a starfish. The long jump distance jump DC. 5 feet, 5, 10 feet, 10, 15 feet, 15, 20 feet, 20, 25 feet, 25, 30 feet, 30. One requires a 20-foot running start. Without a running start, double the DC. So if you got a running start, the DC is 5, you can jump 5 feet. If you don't got a running start, it's 10. So they could just put 10, 20, whatever. 30, 10, 20, 30. High jump. A high jump is a vertical leap made to reach a ledge high above or to grasp something overhead. The DC is equal to 4 times the distance to be cleared. Olympic pole, basketball. If you jumped up to grab something, a successful check indicates that you reached the desired height. If you wish to pull yourself up, you can do so with a move action and a DC 15 climb check. If you fail the jump check, you do not reach the height and you land on your feet in the same spot from which you jumped. As with a long jump, the DC is doubled if you do not get a running start of at least 20 feet. Like 20 feet, we'll measure that. High jump distance, jump DC, not including vertical reach, below requires a 20-foot running start. Without running start, double the DC. So 1 foot, jump DC is 4, 2 feet 8, 3 feet 12, 4 feet 16, 5 feet 20, 6 feet 24, 7 feet 28, 8 feet 32. Obviously, the difficulty of reaching a given height varies according to the size of the character or creature. The maximum vertical reach being the height the creature can reach without jumping for an average creature of a given size is shown on the table below. As a medium creature, a typical human can reach 8 feet without jumping. Quadrupedal creatures don't have the same vertical reach as bipedal creatures, treat them as being one size category smaller. Or unless it's a centaur, I guess. Creature size of vertical reach. Colossal, 128 feet. Gargantuan, 64 feet. Huge, 32 feet. Large, 16 feet. Medium, 8 feet. Small, 4 feet. Tiny, 2 feet. Diminutive, 1 foot. Fine, a half a foot. Hop up. You can jump up onto an object as tall as your waist, such as a table or small boulder, with a DC 10 jump check. Doing so counts as 10 feet of movement. Tree stump, I guess. If your speed is 30 feet, you could move 20 feet, then hop up onto a counter. You do not need to get a running start to hop up, so the DC is not doubled if you do not get a running start. Makes me want to exercise. Need to go exercise. Jumping down. If you intentionally jump from a height, you take less damage than you would if you just fell. DC to jump down from a height is 15. You do not have to get a running start to jump down, so the DC is not doubled if you do not get a running start. If you succeed on the check, you take falling damage, as if you had dropped 10 fewer feet than you actually did. So jumping down, let's see, you do not have to get. If you succeed on the check, you take falling damage as if you dropped 10 fewer feet. You actually did. They used the feather fall too. Action. None. A jump check is included in your movement, so it's part of a move action. If you run out of movement mid-jump, your next action, either on this turn or if necessary on your next turn, must be a move action to complete the jump. Where you fall flat, I guess. Special. Effects that increase your movement also increase your jumping distance, since your check is modified by your speed. Effects that increase your movement also increase your jumping distance, since your check is modified by your speed. If you have the run feat, you get a +4 bonus on jump checks for any jump made after a running start. A halfling has a +2 racial bonus on jump checks because halflings are agile and athletic. Jump checks. If you have the acrobatic feat, you get a +2 bonus on jump checks. Synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in tumble, you get a +2 bonus on jump checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in jump, you get a +2 bonus on tumble checks. And 5 or more ranks in tumble. Oh, very easy. Information. Okay, so 36. Right. Left. What are we doing? Jump distance, size, long jump. Requires a 20-foot running start. All right, let's see. Let's just start again here. Obviously, the difficulty of reaching a given height varies according to the size of the character. The maximum reach height the creature can reach without jumping for an average creature of a given size is shown on the table below. Quadrupedal creatures don't have the same vertical reach. Creature size, vertical reach, colossal, 128 feet. Gargantuan, 64 feet. Huge, 32 feet. Large, 16 feet. Medium, 8 feet. Small, 4 feet. Tiny, 2 feet. Diminutive, 1 foot. And fine, a half a foot. So little fairies and shit. Hop up. You can jump onto an object as tall as your waist, such as a table or small boulder, tree stump, or whatever, with a DC 10 jump check. Doing so counts as 10 feet of movement. So if your speed is 30 feet, you could move 20 feet, then hop up onto a counter. You do not need to get a running start to hop up, so the DC is not doubled if you do not get a running start. Jumping down. If you intentionally jump from a height. I jump down off the counter and had to point my toes in a certain way to keep from making too much noise. Okay, jumping down. If you intentionally jump from a height, you take less damage than you would if you just fell. The DC to jump down from a height is 15. You do not have to get a running start to jump down, so the DC is not doubled if you do not get a running start. If you succeed on the check, you take falling damage as if you had dropped 10 fewer feet than you actually did. Action. None. A jump check is included in your movement, so it is part of a move action. If you run out of movement mid-jump, you fall, I guess. Your next action, either on this turn or necessary, or your next turn, must be a move action to complete the jump. Special. Effects that increase your movement also increase your jumping distance, since your check is modified by your speed. Effects that increase your movement also increase your jumping distance. If you have the run feat, you get a +4 bonus on jump checks for any jumps made after a running start. A halfling has a +2 racial bonus on jump checks because halflings are agile and athletic. If you have the acrobatic feat, you get a +2 bonus on jump checks if you have the acrobatic feat. Synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in tumble, you get a +2 bonus on jump checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in jump, you get a +2 bonus on tumble checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in tumble. You get a +2 bonus on jump checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in jump, you get a +2 bonus on tumble checks. Knowledge. Intelligence trained only. Like the craft and profession skills, knowledge actually encompasses a number of unrelated skills. Knowledge represents a study of some body of lore, possibly an academic or even scientific discipline. Below are listed typical fields of study. I should probably make a notebook of these. Make some notes on this. Arcana. Ancient mysteries, magic traditions, arcane symbols, cryptic phrases, constructs, dragons, and magical beasts. the arcana checks, or about all those things. Yeah. Architecture and engineering. Buildings, aqueducts, bridges, fortifications. Dungeoneering. Aberrations. Caverns, oozes, and spelunking. Geography. Land, terrain, climate, and people. History. Royalty, wars, colonies, migrations, and founding of cities. Local. Legends, personalities, inhabitants, laws, customs, traditions, and human rights. Nature. Animals, fae, giants, monstrous humanoids, plants, seasons and cycles, weather, and vermin. Nature checks. For animals, fae, giants, monstrous humanoids, plants, seasons and cycles, and weather, and vermin. I mean, vermin is kind of a thing that's like civilization, you know. Out of nature, everything's just part of the ecosystem. Nobility and royalty. Lineages, heraldry, family trees, mottos, personalities. Religion. Gods and goddesses, mythic history, ecclesiastic tradition, holy symbols, and undead. The planes. See inner planes, the outer planes, the astral plane, the ethereal plane, outsiders, elementals, magic related to the planes. Definitely need to start making notes about this. Page 99 of the contract. Skills. Check. Answering a question within your field of study has a DC of 10 for really easy questions, 15 for basic questions, or 20 to 30 for really tough questions. In many cases, you can use this skill to identify monsters and their special powers. Our vulnerabilities. In general, the DC of such a check equals 10 plus the monster's HD. A successful check, HD, hit dice. A successful check allows you to remember a bit of useful information about that monster. A successful check allows you to remember a bit of useful information about that. For every 5 points by which your check result exceeds the DC, you recall another piece of useful information. Okay, so if you roll really good, you remember a few things about the monster. Issue. Action. Usually none. In most cases, making a knowledge check doesn't take an action. You simply know the answer, or you don't. By role playing it, you could sit there and scratch your head a bit, tap your chin, and then speak. Oh, I think I remember that. Try again. No, the check represents what you know, and thinking about a topic a second time doesn't let you know something that you never learned in the first place. Although one could make exceptions for like memory. You have to remember something you learned a long time ago. It might take a minute. You scratching your head, tapping your chin. Synergy. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge arcana, you get a +2 bonus on spellcraft checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge, architecture, and engineering, you get a +2 bonus on search checks made to find secret doors or hidden compartments. 5 or more ranks in knowledge, architecture, and engineering. You get a +2 bonus on search checks made to find secret doors or hidden compartments. So that's neat. But like, okay, so if I made the campaign where, it's very much knowledge based. I expect my players to read books, to read on the door, and know ahead of time, so I don't have to like tell them anything in particular necessarily. I mean, I still might have to, but they could just, read some of the books that I will write up. We'll go through during the role play setting. We could have conversations. We could discuss what the characters know. We'll sit around and read all about the things. Also call this downtime world building. Well, we're not actually in play session. We're studying. Because the point of my game is education. +2 bonuses. Especially engineering and architecture. We'll definitely be learning about that. And nature checks and stuff. So, nature. Animals, fae, giants, monsters, plants, seasons, and cycles, weather. Yeah, definitely weather. I'll be reading some weather books. Geography books, dungeoneering books, architecture books. Yeah, definitely. All of those. And more. I'll read some survival books. I'm going to write specifically for the game setting. Based on all those army books I got over there. But in this case, you make a check, and then the DM tells you what you need to know. +2 bonus. Okay. Anyway, back to reading this. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge, architecture, and engineering, you get a +2 bonus on search checks made to find secret doors or hidden compartments. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge, geography, you get a +2 bonus on survival checks made to keep from getting lost or to avoid natural hazards. If you know really well that certain kind of geography means there could be a sudden drop or chasm, ravine, some kind of dangerous terrain, you would know geography. Nature and geography. See, nature, animals, fae, giants, plants, seasons, cycle, weather, and vermin. Like animals and vermin. It's like vermin, I guess, are bugs. Bugs and things. Plants, then. So nature checkers, animals, plants, weather, fae, giants, monsters, humans, seasons, and cycles. I write a nice nature lore book. The lore of my setting. So if you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge, geography, you get +2 bonus survival checks, and keep from getting lost or to avoid natural hazards. Makes a nice book-binded, little tomes. It's so great. If you have 5 more ranks in knowledge history, you get a +2 bonus on bardic knowledge checks. Knowledge of history. Because, you know, good bardic songs are all about history. Pythagoras, Anacreon. You need to write a book on Pythagoras and Anacreon doing a flitting. Should write a whole scenario of Pythagoras and Anacreon doing a flitting. Bardic knowledge. So 5 or more ranks in knowledge history, you get a +2 bonus on bardic knowledge checks. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge, because remembering things by song is like so much better. I'm pretty sure druids and bards get along there. Because druids don't, right? They probably sing. I'm gonna watch that video again. Bardic knowledge checks. I'm reading the Hermetic teachings of Thoth. There's a lot to do with stars and geography. This doesn't mention stars, but it should. I guess it would go with geography. I don't know. Sort of like, yeah. I think geography would include stars. Because it's a map. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge local, you get a +2 bonus on gather information checks, especially if you're elf. Half elf. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge nature, you get a +2 bonus on survival checks made in above ground natural environments. Aquatic, desert, forest, hill, marsh, mountains, or plains. Or more knowledge of nature. +2 bonus on survival checks made in above ground natural environments. But it said it was animals and plants and what nature, seasons, the weather. I mean, the weather and the seasons. Animals, fae, giants, monstrous humanoids, plants, seasons and cycles, weather, and vermin. Plants, seasons, and cycles, weather, and vermin. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge nature, you get a +2 bonus on survival checks made in above ground natural environments. Aquatic, desert, forest, hill, marsh, mountains, or plains. Okay, so those are survival checks. Okay. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge, nobility, and royalty, you get a +2 bonus on diplomacy checks. We'll have to write a little book on that too for my setting. Know all about the line of Caesar and Ptolemy. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge religion, you get a +2 bonus on turning checks against undead. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge the planes, you get a +2 bonus on survival checks made while on other planes. I used to think a lot about the astral plane. It's a very interesting thing. If you have 5 or more ranks in knowledge dungeoneering, you get a +2 bonus on survival checks made while underground. If you have 5 or more ranks in survival, you get a +2 bonus on knowledge nature checks. Alright, so 5 ranks in survival. And 5 or more ranks in knowledge dungeoneering, you get a +2 bonus on survival checks made while underground. Dungeons and caves. +2 bonus on checks. I'll make a whole Minecraft map, would be great. Untrained. An untrained knowledge check is simply an intelligence check. I want to make a game that's part D&D and part Minecraft. It'd be great. Call it fascist. Really want to make a game called fascism or fascistism? Yeah, fascistism. Just to fuck with everyone. Troll. Oh, there's a boy hiding in the place. Yes, man. He's a hiding blanket boy. Hiding in the blanket boy. You look cozy. Maybe I can lay down and be cozy. It's nice and cozy. Untrained. An untrained knowledge check is simply an intelligence check. Without actual training, you can know only common knowledge, DC 10 or lower. Listen. Wisdom check. You listen. Your listen check is either made against a DC that reflects how quiet the noise is that you might hear, or it is opposed by your target's move silently check. So you're listening for little bats moving around. They get up and go scrounge the kitchen. Quiet the noises you might hear, or opposed by your target's move silently check. In the case of people trying to be quiet, the DCs given on the table could be replaced by move silently checks, in which case the indicated DC would be their average check result. Action varies. Every time you have a chance to hear something in a reactive manner, such as when someone makes a noise or you move into a new area, you can make a listen check without using an action. Trying to hear something you failed to hear previously is a move action. And this only works if the sound continues. Try again. Yes, you can try to hear something that you failed to hear previously with no penalty. Unless the sound doesn't happen again, I suppose. Special. When several characters are listening to the same thing, a single 1d20 roll can be used for all the individual's listen checks. Several characters are listening to the same thing. For something. Trying to hear footsteps, perhaps. Trying to hear a ghost. A fascinated creature takes a -4 penalty on listen checks made as reactions. If you have the alertness, so I guess if you're fascinated by something other than what you're trying to listen for. Ooh. Mm. All right.